Good afternoon. Welcome to our recorded version of the Reading Alignment Sprint launch. So this is a recorded version. Head teachers have already received the launch input, and this video is to support schools as they dive into the reading curriculum content. In schools, always good to check in and see how you're feeling. And with reading as our focus today, just take a moment and think about how are you feeling right now? Which book just captures you today? Before we get started properly, it's only right and proper that we remind ourselves of why we're here. And we are here because our breakthrough curriculum is trying to do 5 things. We're trying to ensure clarity in terms of what every learner is experiencing, consistency in how we deliver it, collaboration so that we're working together to get the very best out of ourselves for our learners, challenge in terms of the quality of the learning, and challenge to ourselves to provide the best experiences. And then creativity, because we know that if we can get the foundations of anything in place, then we create bandwidth to think innovatively and creatively. And that's what our learners need too. Our breakthrough curriculum, we've got these 7 foundational building bricks. The 5 principles is the first. The idea of breakthrough is so important across all areas of our curriculum. And you can see on the screen here, there's some numbers. Now, the green numbers are giving us cause to celebrate. 84% of our children have achieved early level as of June 23. Only 79% have achieved first level. 81% achieved second level. And you can see that for third level, well, that was 88%. But in the red, that's the number of children who didn't achieve that level. 160 not achieved early level, 210 not achieved first level, etc. Our breakthrough, our moral purpose is that every child should be on track with their reading. Every child and young person should be able to read and enjoy reading. That's what's going to be driving the way we go forward. We've also got to think about the idea of where we get all the content from. So a breakthrough curriculum harnesses wisdom. And we've looked externally and internationally. So we've looked at the works of highly regarded and respected professors and academics. We've looked at the works of Education Scotland. We've been working with Scottish Book Trust. We've also looked at what other schools in Scotland are doing and what we're doing locally. But we're harnessing that wisdom. We're not starting with a blank piece of paper. We've got to close the gap. That is something that is constantly a priority for us, and we know that if we can create a specific curriculum that is carefully designed and sequenced, we can go a long way to closing that gap. And the new reading curriculum is exactly that. It is a specific curriculum that is carefully designed and sequenced, and it will benefit all learners, but particularly those who have some form of barrier to their learning. We also need to remember that cognitive science teaches us so much about a curriculum and how to design a curriculum, how to deliver that curriculum. And I particularly wanted to bring your attention to this concept here of primary and secondary, not school, primary and secondary biological knowledge, skill and concept. Reading is a biologically secondary skill. It is something that we have to be taught. And that's really important to know and understand. Some things we just innately learn and acquire over time through osmosis, through watching other people and observing. But reading is not that. Reading is something that was invented by human beings and needs to be learned and taught very specifically. And we need to remember that as we deliver our reading curriculum. We need to think very specifically about the pedagogies that we use, that we employ in the classroom, from the way that we activate learning, curiosity, the way we think about memory, through the climate and the culture of our classroom, and we'll come to that shortly, and through the way that we assess that intended planned learning. If we get all of those things right, we're confident that we'll get the improved knowledge, understanding and skills that will help our children and young people flourish and take their place in successful society. And the last thing to mention is this idea of our curriculum that is a curriculum of parts. These 4 parts, which come from the work of Professor Priestley at Stirling University. So if we can get the correct methodology and pedagogy, if we're really clear about the content, the steps of success, if we're really clear about the assessments that will support teacher professional judgment, that is not to say we're introducing a suite of everyone test, test, test. But if we get common assessments, then our teachers will feel more confident in the judgments that they're reaching. And then the 4th part is about structures and thinking about how we deliver reading in the day, over a week, over a term, over a year. So 4 parts to the curriculum. Our reading breakthrough curriculum is designed around these 4 parts. And just as a reminder, this is the reading launch. You've completed the Oracy launch. You've completed the Oracy sprint. Thank you so much for your engagement with that. Feedback, your thoughts are so important, and they will be for the reading sprint as well. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. So your ideas, your feedback will help us fine tune what you will then be enacting in August 2024. Because working together is the most powerful way to move things forward. Collaboration is one of our driving principles. So just as a reminder, you've got this input now, and then you're going to be completing your alignment. You've got 3 questions to think about and to feed back on. And the deadline for that is the 18th of January, but we'll come to that later on. Okay, so that's a recap of why we're doing this differently, what we're trying to achieve out of it. And it's really important that we remember that why, we keep hold of that why, that rationale. But for now, let's dive in. Very shortly, you'll be joined on the screen by Dawn Taylor and Emma Turnbull. They're part of our curriculum team. But for now, you're still stuck with me, so bear with me. Right. Why reading? Why on earth do we need to worry about reading? I've got a quiz for you. It's not so much a quiz as a question. Orthography. If I was to ask you what does orthography mean, I wonder how many people in the room that you're in could answer that question. I'll let you know that when I asked the head teachers, very few, if any, could answer, so don't panic. Orthography means the study of or the understanding of a written language, the structure of a written language. And we, as an English-speaking language, we use a phonetic structure where every phoneme, every sound within our language has its own unique unit and symbol. So it's cat, cat. But you have other structures, so syllabic. So Japanese is a syllabic orthography, or Mandarin is a logographic. That's the whole word. So a whole word takes one physical representation. Now, that's important for us to think about when teaching reading. We teach phonetically, not logographically. We shouldn't be trying to get children to remember lots of whole words. There's a place for some, but not all. Our language is phonetic. So, for example, this word. Would you be able to read that word? Of course you can. What does it say? Bat. Yes. What about this word? What does this one say? Yes, hat. What about this one? What about this one? No? Well, yes, they do say cat and they do say pat, but actually, when I see cat, I think of collegiate activity time, and pat is a portable appliance test. Just goes to show that our language is a bit confusing, and I'm a fully grown adult. Okay, what about this word? What does that word say? If I was in the room with you, I might be able to hear some of you say goatee. Now, it could say goatee, but actually, phonetically, this could also say fish. Because if I know the word enough, if I know the word women, and if I know the word nation, I could get the phonetical word fish from those letters on the screen. Our language is confusing, and as an adult trying to instruct and teach a child to read, I need to remember that. Phonetics is one part of it, but understanding the words and reading the words. So on the screen there has a passage all about space. Now, if I was reading that and all of those blanked out words, what if those are words I couldn't read? That's really difficult for me to engage with that text, to understand it, because I don't have access to all the words. Reading unlocks, reading gives me access to information. But just being able to read the words isn't enough. Our curriculum needs to go further than that. Yes, we need to be able to decode phonetically. Yes, we need to be able to read all the words on the page. But if I was to read this passage, I can read every single word on that page, but I don't know what it means. Because what I don't have is the background knowledge to bring understanding. So our reading curriculum, we need to teach phonetics so that we can decode words. We need to teach the ability to read every word that's on the page, but we also need to bring understanding through that knowledge-rich, experience-rich, that understanding of the world that helps us comprehend the passage that we're reading. Okay, so there's some things to think about as we go diving deeper, because if we can get this right, genuinely reading is powerful. It unlocks across every area of the curriculum. This is not just about the English teachers at secondary. This is not just about your reading lesson in primary. This is across the curriculum. Accessing content across the curriculum makes such a difference. So now let's find out a bit more about the detail of this offer.
Hi, I'm Emma Temple and I'm part of the SPC Way curriculum team, and I'll be taking a lead on reading. So we're going to start off with the 4 capacities in reading. So the purpose of our curriculum is encapsulated within these 4 capacities. This enables each learner to be successful, to be confident, to be responsible, and to be an effective contributor. So how are we developing the knowledge, skills, and the attributes to flourish in reading, and how does this link to wider life, learning and work now and in the future? I found this a very useful and worthwhile document to produce. It allows us to reflect on the learning under the umbrella of the 4 capacities, the foundations of the curriculum. It is not limited, and there may be other contributions that you would like to make to this document. So on the Padlet, there is a blank version for you to take back to staff, to learners, and really get people involved. It sparked conversation and curiosity about what reading opportunities we are providing and what next steps we can provide.
Thanks very much, Emma. My name is Dawn Taylor. I am curriculum lead for the SPC Way team. As a starting point for the reading launch, we were thinking around creating audit tools for you to use in your school. These will give you a baseline in terms of where you feel you are and your practitioners are in their practice, and guiding them through the process. Hopefully we can measure the impact of our systems and our new curriculum. We've created 4 audit tools for you to use across your schools. One has already been completed, and that was done by your head teachers on our head teacher engagement day, giving that school overview of where you feel you are as a school on the journey to improvement. And we're going to ask every single practitioner within your schools to complete one so that we can get a sense really of where you feel you are on your journey. And this isn't in any way to catch people out. This is about trying to get a true reflection of where we feel people are in their journey to reading, and also where we can see as a team where we need to provide the support in order to help people in that process. We've also produced 2 other audits. These are not compulsory, but we thought they might be useful for you to use within your schools. One is a pupil-led audit. This is currently just within the primary school system. And also there's a family engagement survey there for you to use, where you can gather the views of the community that you're working in as well. As part of completing the audits, we as a team have created a 5-point scale. Thanks, James. Just going back to that slide there. This is very much an asset-based self-evaluation approach, where we're really homing in on people's strengths. And we have there created a sort of 5-point scale where you can really hopefully have a really clear understanding. If you are giving yourself a 3 for a certain category within the audit, you can see exactly what that means. So hopefully these statements will give a true reflection and also give us really accurate data to measure the process that we're going through. So you can see there from anticipating at number 1 up to extending, where we're really looking for people who feel that within their practice that they're sector leading. So the next slide identifies the types of questions that we are looking at within the process of the audits, and we really liked this as an image in terms of giving that really holistic overview of reading. And the questions that you'll come across within the audit will guide you through this holistic overview. So we're thinking things around how confident do you feel in creating a reading culture within your classroom? How confident do you feel with your teaching and pedagogy of reading, the assessment tools that you're using, engaging with families and so on. So that's just quite a nice image that will talk you through the questions that you'll come across within the audits. So you can see on the screen here on the right hand side, the link. This is a QR code link that will take you straight to the audit tool. It should just take a few minutes to complete. And as I say, the one on the left hand side there has already been completed by your school leaders.
So these are the additional 2 audits that are available for, sorry, wrong slide, for schools to take part in. So there is a learner engagement and a family engagement. We have broken that down into primary 1 to 3 and primary 4 to 7. So primary 1 to 3, I tried this out in my base school, Duns, and I asked a class of primary 1-2 pupils 3 questions. We discussed these and created mind maps together. We then discussed the zones of regulation and used the colours linked to this to gauge our feelings towards enjoyment in reading. We then took time to analyse this, suggesting ways that we thought as a class we could improve this. Primary 4 to 7 can scan the code, and this is various questions to gauge interest and enjoyment in reading. The family engagement focuses around engagement, confidence and support needed in home at reading. So the SPC Way reading is informed by underpinning methodologies organised into the 5 pillars of reading. Each of these elements are or will be reflected in progressions and support documents. This is then measured using robust assessment. So the SPC Way reading Padlet is organised into these 5 sections. We're going to signpost updates, developments and key messages before we break out and explore, sharing the headline news for the SPC Way reading. So to begin with, we're going to focus on reading methodologies. These are the 4 core texts that have underpinned SPC Way reading. Christopher Such, who's joining us for a CLPL session in the Borders in a few weeks, advocates lots of really interesting research around phonics instruction, as well as comprehension and the balanced reading diet. There is a copy of this that has been sent home with cluster heads, so hopefully you should be able to engage with this. Alex Quigley, Closing the Reading Gap, refers to bringing words to life and using the 3 tiers of vocabulary to illustrate this. What I found most useful within this text are the practical strategies that are advocated to develop that word-rich curriculum. Closing the Reading Gap focuses on the reading challenges that we face, making this text really relatable. It refers to the barriers to reading across the curriculum, as well as those practical strategies for implementation. Reflective Reading is a really practical text that shares engaging tools for building learners as readers and managing reading in the classroom. The SPC methodology can be seen throughout these core texts, and these could be promoted in professional learning libraries within schools. There are 3 foundational methodologies that underpin SPC Way reading. Firstly, the simple view of reading. This is a framework that explores reading as a product of 2 essential components, word recognition and language comprehension. According to this view, reading comprehension is the result of an individual's ability to accurately decode and understand meaning behind a text. Next, adding additional detail is Scarborough's reading rope. The model again consists of those two strands, language comprehension and word recognition. However, in this model, there are various substrands. It is a comprehensive model that explains the essential components of reading. It was proposed to help educators understand the complexity of reading. As the strands combine, the rope becomes stronger. The 5 pillars of reading instruction is a framework that represents the essential components of effective reading construction. This framework identifies 5 key areas or pillars that contribute to proficient reading.
Thanks, Emma. So in SBC, we have taken some of the methodology and we have created our own visual. You'll see this visual within progression frameworks and some of the support materials and guidance documents that we've created to support you within your schools. You can see within our visual that we have the 5 pillars of reading, as Emma just has spoken about. For each of these pillars, we have added a colour so that it will be easy to navigate your way through some of the resources that are available to you. We also have a little icon there. So everything that we produce and everything that we create as support materials for you to use in your school will hopefully be really easy for you to access, and hopefully you'll find them really useful and supportive. Underpinning the 5 pillars, we have 4 foundations. We know that reading some skills do need to be taught as specific skills, but it really is part of that really holistic view of teaching literacy in your school. So we have included Oracy and writing as 2 of the foundations. We know that that's part of that really depth experience that we will allow children to have if we're combining all these skills into really rich experiences. Within Oracy, children really love talking about books, analysing books, asking questions about books, giving opinions about books. So the Oracy, you can see, is a really important element. And as writers, children can learn so much by looking at the work of other authors, examining text to see the types of words that they're using, the structure that they're using, and so on. That can really help our learners become better writers themselves. In terms of the knowledge-rich curriculum, if you can think back to the slide that James had around the physics content that was really difficult for us as non-specialists in physics to understand, we know it's really important that children have that knowledge around what they're reading, and that we can build those contexts for children so they can really engage with the text and have a deeper understanding. So we felt that was really important to reflect that as one of the key foundations. And finally, the final one there is text complexity. So we know that, for example, if we're looking in comprehension and we're teaching something like prediction, that skill in a sense doesn't look that different from a child who maybe at the beginning of primary school to a child who's maybe in S2 at high school in terms of the actual skill. But we know what does change is the complexity of the text, and we really want to be focused in providing really rich, engaging materials for our learners. So as part of the SBC Way, we have a really strong methodology that underpins the practice, and we have created, and you will see this on the Padlet, a methodology document. This is just a snapshot here of some of the key elements that you will come across. For each of the 5 pillars, there will be an underpinning methodology that will go with that. And you can see on the screen there, hopefully, that you can begin to see those icons coming into play as a tool for you to sort of see the links between different aspects of the materials.
So next, we're going to move on to the steps to success. So this visual, with thanks to Highland Council, illustrates the importance of the balance between learning to read and reading to learn. It explores the different components that are involved as well. Questions to reflect on with staff linked to this visual could be: what does that transition from learning to read to reading to learn look like? When learners can independently access text on a technical level, what do we do to continue their development as readers? How do we teach reading comprehension? As teachers, can we model fluency? And are we explicitly teaching vocabulary? So there are several progressions and support documents that are being developed by SPC Way Reading. Currently, the Padlet hosts early and first level. These are available for you to explore later with the QR code. Alongside that, we also do have second, third and fourth level within the new format being produced. However, there is reference to the slightly older format on the Padlet as well. A draft version of the phonics progression is also available, and Dawn will touch upon this in more detail in a moment. Alongside these documents will lie a guidance document and a pedagogy ThinkLink that covers both modelling and questioning. Throughout the SPC Way Reading Padlet, you will see reference to a story of 3 parts. We have built the reading curriculum around building a reading culture and environment, developing skills for reading, and creating independent and engaged readers. This is taken from an unpublished Education Scotland document called Teaching Early Reading. This will hopefully provide clarity and consistency in the organisation of the SPC Way. So these are examples from the SPC Way first level progression. As you can see, it's divided up into those 3 sections. The icons that are present in the SPC Way pillars and foundations, as well as the methodology document, can also be seen here. Throughout this document, you will see the refer to, and this is where the guidance document, as well as those questioning and modelling pedagogy ThinkLinks, will sit. We are currently working across second and third and fourth with English PTs from iMath Cluster to develop second and third level progressions.
Thanks, Emma. So as Emma mentioned, we do have a draft phonics progression, which is available for you to have a look at within the Padlet. But first, we'd like to just talk about the pedagogy that's being really encouraged through the SPC Way, and we really are promoting a systematic synthetic phonics approach to the teaching of phonics. And if we break that down, the word synthetic refers to the breakdown of those sounds into small units, as James talked about earlier, and known as phonemes, and then the visual representation of that, which are known as graphemes. And when children start to learn within phonics, they're looking really at just one example of how the sound links to the written format. But as children grow and develop and become more confident, they're exposed to many more grapheme alternatives. And this is when we get that real sense of the systematic approach. So a systematic approach is something that's really embedded right through the school, from nursery when children are coming in and being exposed to phonemic awareness, the rhyme and the syllabification and all the different pre-skills that they need to become competent readers. And then as they go through school, they're really developing a really strong sense of all the different graphemes that will connect with a phoneme. And you can see an example on the screen there with the AI pattern. So AI is the pure sound that the children will hear and that we'll hear as readers. We then look at one alternative to that. So if we know that the AI makes the A sound, we also know that AY makes an A sound. And then children really start to build up their knowledge by looking at more complex patterns, such as AE, and then one more advanced example would be EIGH, as in neighbour. And this concept is really around introducing phonics through an alphabetic code. So the children learn that the AI, for example, the phoneme, is the very simple code, and then they look at a more complex code as they develop and progress through school. And you can see the 2 examples there, using the simple code just for train and a more complex example for sleigh. It's important to mention at this point that we're not asking anyone with a really good systematic synthetic phonics programme within their schools to suddenly abandon that, and we're certainly not promoting one version or one resource over another. What we are really encouraging is that we have a real system that is very progressive and will go right through the school, so children will come out at the end of second level with a really strong knowledge of the code as they progress into high school. So you can see at the top there just a linear sort of idea of the progression there, and we talked there about the phonemic awareness. It's really important that that starts right in nursery. within group time and opportunities within the provision within nursery that children are getting a real understanding of phonics before they've even been introduced to any sense of an alphabet or a code. That progresses then to the simple code, then the single alternative, and then building up that complex code as they progress through primary school. And then we're looking at extending the code by looking at morphology when we're introducing prefixes and suffixes and compound words. Etymology, looking at the roots of words. Does it come from a Greek origin or a Latin origin? And then moving on to the orthography, where we're looking at specific rules that then apply to the English language. And this is more in a spelling context, where we know that the English language can be very, very complicated. There are 44 sounds or phonemes within the English language, but we have 144 spelling alternatives. So it is one of the more complex languages across the world. So we can understand how challenging it is for our learners. You can see a sample there of a phonics progression that we're creating. And we do have a consultation coming up in the next few weeks with an expert in phonics, which is why this is still in draft form. And we're looking also for feedback from schools around that. We also are producing an increasing word list that will go along with the code, and you can see a sample there on the right-hand side of the screen. This is again an example for the AI code, and what members of the team are doing in the SBC way is producing these word lists really to support and cut back on people's time, just as a starting point for staff to use within their classrooms and their school.
Okay, so let's talk about assessment. Back to me now. Getting assessment right is so important across any subject. The purpose of assessment is so that we as teachers know how to help our learners go forward in their learning journey. And part of that assessment is about making sure that we are looking into the right things. In terms of assessing reading, then there are 5 key tools that we can think about, and you can see them on the screen there. We can assess phonological awareness. That's right at the very start, kind of pre-reading. We can assess phonics through some form of phonics screening approach. We can assess fluency, and that can be word reading fluency, oral fluency. We can assess sentence understanding. We can assess comprehension. So on the screen there, you can see the various tools that we've got. All of the 4 of these tools are free, and that's music to many people's ears. They're all available on the Reading Curriculum Padlet. The particular one I want to draw your attention to is what's called the Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. Easy for you to say. That's DIBELS for short. This is a comprehensive reading assessment. And again, we've said that we've been harnessing wisdom. So this has come from Ontario in the States, comprehensive reading assessment tool here. And it explores, you can see on the next screen here, it helps to assess letter naming, phonemic segmentation, nonsense words, and then you've got oral fluency, and then the maze, which is a comprehension part. And you can see very clearly, this isn't just about early reading. This goes right the way through the BGE to the end of 3rd level, 4th level. And these are tools that are freely available. They're also very, very quick to administer. These 5 tools here take 60 seconds to administer. Maze takes 3 minutes to administer. So that's very useful, but very powerful that comes out in terms of where's this learner in their journey? How do we move them forward? Just before I move on, I wanted to bring your attention to the idea of assessing comprehension. And there's a word of warning here. Dawn mentioned earlier about one of the foundations of reading is a knowledge-rich curriculum. There's a growing thinking around the idea of reading comprehension, that actually, when you're trying to assess reading comprehension, what you're actually doing is assessing a reader's background knowledge, because normally what you're assessing is how much they know about the text that they're reading. If you assess someone who is a very capable reader, but they don't know very much about the topic, they won't perform as well as someone who actually knows a lot more about the topic, but is an okay reader. So be very careful when making big judgments about a learner's ability in reading based on your more standard standardized approaches to reading comprehension. Do assess comprehension, use the strategies which we'll come into in a moment, but be very careful about using that as a definitive measure of success. But the other tools that are freely available are really powerful for working out where is a learner and what is next.
So next we have recommended structures. So as previously referred to, we have building a reading culture and environment. The SPC Way promotes engaging with families and partners within our reading culture, ensuring that there are opportunities for cross-curricular learning within reading, engaging with authors and novels as part of our curriculum offer, celebrating events such as World Book Day, Scottish Book Week and other national events, reading aloud to our learners every day, and allowing opportunities for our learners to read for themselves every day. Showcasing literacy learning walls and journeys to celebrate success both in classrooms and in communal areas around school. Support local library, school library and class library engagement and enjoyment. Providing opportunities for learners to read as they play, for example, providing building themed books within construction areas or providing an activity linked to a book. We are aware that the culture and environment may look different across the ages and stages, so we are really keen to explore what this looks like from early right the way through the BGE, as well as within enhanced provisions and other services such as language and communication. Scottish Book Trust have created a video to share some key messages around building a reading culture and environment, and it would be great if you could watch this as a staff. This is also available on the Padlet. I've also created a Reading Schools Padlet to share success stories. If anyone would like to, from primary right the way through the BGE, contribute to this, this is open. You're able to share case studies, images, practical tips, quotes, etc. If you're a reading school, it'll be really great to hear from you. The SPC Way Reading Toolkit, with thanks to iMouth Cluster, shares the strategies for the explicit teaching of reading through high quality instruction. These are the 7 comprehension skills that are referred to within the first level progression. This will include evaluating as we head into second and beyond. Again, you can see the icons present here to keep that consistency. The SPC Way promotes these approaches to enrich the learning experiences for our learners, to allow them to engage with the core skills to develop independence and confidence. We will provide opportunities for learners to apply these skills in a balanced range of approaches. These are the guided reading approaches. So we've got reciprocal reading. This is an instructional activity whereby the learners become the teacher in a small group reading session. Teachers model and then support learners to structure group discussions using strategies such as predicting, summarising, etc. Shared reading is an interactive reading experience. Learners analyse and interact with a short piece of text. A novel and author study is an opportunity for learners to engage with a text or texts either as a whole class or as a group. They enjoy reading and discussing the text and will collaboratively design a programme of study to celebrate cross-curricular links. Reflective reading can be used to ensure that higher order thinking skills are applied and embedded independently by children. The SPC Way promotes these fluency development opportunities to enrich the learning experiences of our learners to allow them to engage with the core skills to develop independence and confidence. These are the fluency strategies, and again, it should be a balanced approach. So we've got choral reading. This is reading aloud together, either as a whole class or as part of a group, to help build fluency, self-confidence, and motivation. Then we've got paired reading or reading trios. This is a research-based fluency strategy, allowing learners to read together.
So this is the link to the Launchpad and to the reading section, the reading Padlet, where you'll find all those resources that we've talked you through today under those 5 sections. So hopefully now you'll have an opportunity to explore and to really have a deeper dive into some of those resources, and hopefully you'll find them helpful. There's lots more to come, but we're really keen to get feedback around what we've produced so far. And the Launchpad will hopefully give you a bit more of a deeper understanding.
Okay, so that has been the launch. That is you having the overview of the content of the reading curriculum. We're confident in the rationale, we're confident in the methodology, and we're excited about what this can do. So what we need now is for you to dive into the content and at the direction of your teacher or leadership team, engage with the content and answer these 3 top-level questions. There are some sub-questions within each one, so there are more than 3, I accept that, but there are 3 big questions. What are you already doing that is in line with what the 4-part curriculum suggests? What are you not doing or doing very differently? And then any feedback on the content, and you'll be led through the process of engaging and feeding back. So just to finish up, before you go, some really important professional learning opportunities for you. That one on the 2nd of November, that's gone, it's historic. 24th of November, please sign up for this. Chris Such, author of The Art and Science of Primary Reading, phenomenal book, phenomenal speaker. Please do come along to that to find out more about the approaches that we're encouraging and recommending. Then we've got the Inspire Learning team on the 30th of November and 4th of December for reading progress and reading coach. And then 16th of January, Scottish Book Trust coming along to help us think about how to set up and create a reading culture in our schools. All of these can be found and booked through the Professional Learning blog. That brings us to the end of our session and our recorded session. Thank you so much for your time. Final note from me is this is for all of us. This is not just primary. This is for all of us, primary and secondary. We all have a responsibility, whatever subject we teach, to get reading right. Just like oracy is for us all, reading is for us all. Some of it might be more appropriate and will have a heavier weighting in the primary, but if we don't all get it, if we don't all do our part, then we are not getting it right for every child and young person. So thank you for your time, thank you for your engagement, and looking forward to your feedback. Then I will stop recording. Oh, that's only stopped the transcription. There we go. But I can edit it, so it doesn't matter.